Greetings. This is the one you've known as Jesus the Christ. Transmissions have been used throughout history in various spiritual traditions to raise consciousness. Those who've attained a high degree of spiritual development naturally emanate and channel higher energies to those willing and able to receive them. These energies may be blocked by a negative entity in someone's energy field, but most people who open to these energies will receive them. The physical healings that I performed when I was alive were examples of a transmission of energy. Although not all transmissions result in physical healing, transmissions bring many other benefits. This phenomenon has been observed around spiritual teachers, gurus, and other awakened or enlightened people for as long as there have been such people. These people generally abide in a higher state of consciousness than most, and when they're with others, they tend to raise the vibration of those around them. This just happens, and when those who are awakened or enlightened intentionally convey this higher vibration to seekers, and seekers are open to it, the transmission is even more effective. Transmission is a fact. It has been observed time and time again throughout history. It is predictable and has consistent results. That predictability makes it a fact. Transmission is a true, observable phenomenon, and if you had the instruments, it could be measured. The effects of transmission are numerous and depend in part on the intentions of the transmitter and receiver. Healers tune into and channel non-physical beings who specialize in physical healing, while spiritual teachers use transmission primarily to raise consciousness. For this, spiritual teachers also receive help from non-physical beings, but ones who specialize in raising consciousness or who have a particular interest in assisting that teacher. When awakened teachers offer transmission to others, as long as their motives are pure, they'll receive help from higher dimensional beings who know exactly what someone needs and how to facilitate each person's spiritual evolution. Everyone has particular guides assigned to them. Healers and spiritual teachers and every other profession have guides that assist them in their work. No one really does anything by themselves. Creativity, inspiration, inventions, new ideas, information, healing, and transmissions come through people. They're not produced by people themselves. The human self is but a vehicle for expression of the divine on earth. You are never alone, but always working with unseen forces on other planes, non-physical beings who cherish your existence and want you to be happy and fulfilled. They're ready to supply you with everything you need, if only you open to them. Learning to open and receive is an important lesson on the spiritual path. To receive, it's important to trust that non-physical forces exist and are available to help you. This is the truth. Without this trust and openness, you won't be able to receive as fully as possible from them. With this trust and openness, your life will become easier and greatly improved. Sometimes channeled information is not trustworthy, but don't let this fact stop you from opening to higher dimensional beings who are available to assist you personally in your spiritual evolution through transmission and in other ways. On the other hand, if channeled teachings help you relax and experience the love, joy, and peace of your true nature, then you know you've come across the truth. The truth has a positive impact on you on every level, energetically, emotionally, and physically through relaxation, as well as spiritually by uplifting you to a more loving and peaceful state. This is how you know truth. If the words of a spiritual teacher or channel don't have this effect, then you probably don't need that information. So much channeled information is useless and unverifiable. Much of it doesn't improve your life, but only feeds the imagination. The truth will set you free, while falsehoods will imprison you in confusion, doubt, fear, and other negative feelings, or simply keep you spinning around in your mind. These are signs that you've fallen prey to your own egoic mind or someone else's, and you don't need those thoughts or beliefs. Let this be your guide. I came to bring peace and love to your beloved planet, and this is how it's done, by giving you the truth. This truth is apparent in your heart, the spiritual heart. It knows the truth when it hears it, and it shows you this by bringing you into a place of relaxation, peace, and love. The most obvious effect and essential purpose of transmissions is to raise your consciousness or vibration. What do I mean by this? Simply put, transmissions shift you temporarily and eventually more permanently from the egoic state of consciousness to presence, your natural state. They take you from identification with your false self to your divine self, and from human suffering to peace and love, which is your natural state. The natural state is not a spiritual experience or state that you can't function in, but the state that you're meant to function in. It is your optimal state, which is a state of contentment with life just as it is, and a feeling of being in the flow, with no complaints or resistance to life. Awakening refers to a more permanent shift to your natural state as the default, which is what transmissions aim to accomplish. Transmissions accomplish this by infusing you with a higher vibration of energy, which I and many others call Christ consciousness. It is the consciousness of an enlightened one. While receiving a transmission and right after, you're uplifted to this level of consciousness or some degree of it. As a result of a transmission or a series of them, it's not uncommon to fall periodically into Christ consciousness, seemingly for no reason at all. It may be only for a brief second or longer, but this marks a process that will continue to grow if you open to it and make room for it in your life. Christ consciousness is a very ordinary experience, really. It is still, peaceful, compassionate, accepting, content, and loving. It's a feeling of upliftment, expansion, lightness, subtle joy, and ease. This consciousness resides within you, but it may not be experienced by you until it's activated by someone who abides in this state, either a person or a non-physical being. The process of embodying Christ consciousness begins with getting a taste of Christ consciousness through transmission. As you become more familiar with this state through transmission, you gain more and more access to this state yourself. This is a new way of being in life. Being able to abide in this state is the goal of the spiritual path and the hallmark of someone who's well established on the path. Another benefit of transmissions is the healing of old emotional wounds and other limiting conditioning or patterns. Higher dimensional beings help you release fears, buried emotions, negative self-images, untrue beliefs, and other conditioning that keep you tied to the egoic state of consciousness. During or after a transmission, people often experience a flood of tears, indicating a release of emotions. Tears may also be a sign of one's heart opening and being filled with love or devotion to God. These are tears that feel very good, cleansing tears, and tears of upliftment and love. One of the most important long-term effects of transmissions is a lightness of being. You may feel like a weight has been lifted from your shoulders. Finally, you're unencumbered by old images and ideas. Like being born anew, life seems immaculate, fresh, and full of possibilities. This is the experience of your divine self freed of the false self and its burdens. You find yourself laughing more, having fun, being playful, and being able to take yourself and others less seriously. Things don't bother you as they once did, or much less. This lightness is what people are looking for and do expect from the spiritual path, an easing of the burden of being human, being able to see the bright side of life, loving life, and feeling good and at one with life. The spiritual path does result in this, and transmissions speed this along exponentially. They are a gift and a blessing, and one of the main ways that spiritual growth is accelerated, and with very little effort. All that's required is your openness and willingness to receive what has always been available to you and to everyone. Physical healings can result from transmissions as well, especially if a transmission is designated specifically for that. You can always ask for a physical healing, and you'll receive whatever's in your highest good to receive. The problem is that it isn't always in your highest good to receive a healing when you're asking for one. Illness and disability serve the soul's growth and deliver many lessons that can't be learned any other way, or at least not as efficiently. An illness or disability may also be making room in your life to do more spiritual discovery. Often people have to be taken out of their routine before they'll take the time to go deeper spiritually, if that's the soul's desire. If you're experiencing physical difficulties, then that's the right experience for the time being, and you have to find a way to make the best of that experience. Although instantaneous healings sometimes occur as a result of a transmission, what's more likely when you request a healing is that you'll receive insights or guidance intuitively that will speed your healing along by helping you learn whatever you need to learn from your physical issue. Often something has to shift inside you before the physical difficulty can ease, and transmissions will help with that. Transmissions uplift and connect you with your source, with love, peace, and goodness. For this reason, they're pleasurable and beneficial. Feeling connected feels good and is good. The truth is that you are intimately connected to everything that exists in the physical world and beyond. You are connected because everything comes from the same source. God is alive within you and within all life. You are God made manifest in form. Everyone longs to experience this connection, and transmissions fulfill this. This is one of their functions. Are transmissions dangerous? Let me begin by saying that transmissions can be dangerous. A lot of things can be dangerous, even very dangerous, such as fire, electricity, and riding a bike. But you still use or do these things because they're of benefit or enjoyable. So a better question is, What makes transmissions dangerous, and how can those dangers be guarded against? What makes transmissions dangerous is the same thing that can make channeling dangerous, not being able to connect with higher dimensional beings. The spiritual advancement and purity of the transmitter is the most important qualifier, since that will determine the level of energy they can transmit. Can they transmit Christ consciousness? If they aren't awakened or enlightened, they probably can't, at least not consistently or powerfully. Unless channels or transmitters are sufficiently advanced and purified, they'll reach all manner of beings with their own agendas who aren't suited to guide, help, or heal anyone. Negative streams of energy can come through psychics, channels, healers, and spiritual teachers if they're not spiritually developed enough, or if they're driven by a desire for power, admiration, or wealth. After being in their presence or receiving a transmission from them, you're likely to feel bad or unsettled, and this negative state or even depression can linger for some time. More importantly, transmissions from a negative source can stir up unconscious material that isn't meant to be stirred up, which may be difficult to handle. There's a time for everything, and some things are better off left alone. Stirring up repressed emotions prematurely may cause emotional problems. Transmissions from negative sources can also activate and misdirect Kundalini, the energy that guides the spiritual process. This is very different from the healing or spiritual process that's set in motion during a transmission from higher dimensional beings, who know exactly what's needed and what someone's able to handle, and how to facilitate that. Once higher beings set a process in motion, they stay with that person throughout the process. Long after the transmission, they remain connected to them and continue to work with them and support them during this process as best they can. This is very different from what goes on when lower beings are involved. They may set a process in motion and then leave that process unattended. They often don't know what they're doing or don't care what impact they're having. Some even cause harm intentionally. Another problem that can arise if transmitters are connected to lower astral beings is entity attachment. When someone unknowingly opens up to receiving a transmission from a lower astral being, that person is inviting that being or beings to inhabit his or her energy field. Those beings are then able to remain close to that person and influence him or her negatively through the mind. Opening yourself up to transmissions from those who aren't connected to higher dimensional beings can cause entity attachments that linger and cause emotional problems, such as self-hatred, rage, addictions, depression, or other mental illnesses, or suicide. I want to make a distinction between the harm that can be caused by transmissions in the ways I just described and the discomfort or difficulties that are a natural part of the spiritual processes that are often set in motion by a transmission of higher energies. Even beneficial transmissions can result in uncomfortable symptoms, sleepiness or sleeplessness, sluggishness or lethargy, weeping or fear or other emotions coming up, energy running through the body, and restlessness or an inability to focus or do mental work, to name a few. These symptoms are common and normal during and after a transmission, and will pass without needing to do anything about them. The best thing to do in these cases is to not be afraid of these symptoms. relax, and know that they're part of a natural process. These symptoms are signs that clearing and adjustments are being made in the subtle energy body. They're part of the process of healing, clearing, and raising your vibration, and making it possible for you to hold more light in your subtle body. However, if you're afraid of this very natural healing process because you think something is wrong, that will create unnecessary suffering. When these symptoms occur, it's important not to pathologize them. Spiritual process, that is the movement of Kundalini, is mysterious and sometimes uncomfortable and even difficult. But if you can relax and trust that these symptoms will pass, and that the experience is accomplishing something of value, the symptoms will be easier to endure. All in all, when a transmission originates from beings on higher dimensions, most people experience pleasant and positive symptoms: upliftment, peace, heart opening, a flow of love, gratitude, a release, a shift in consciousness, a quiet mind. These effects may last for minutes, hours, or days. Whatever the symptoms, they're evidence of a deep, mysterious, and important spiritual process that's been set in motion. Transmissions are a gift from God. They help heal people's emotional wounds and facilitate their evolution, whether they're on the spiritual path or not, as long as they open to them. This is why I and others offer them. If you would like to experience our transmission of Christ consciousness energy, more information about receiving them is on this webpage, radicalhappiness.com/FAQ. Thank you for your openness. Thank you for being here. I am with you always.